The setup and hidden success. Another year wasted on your little internet shop? Robert Harrison's voice carried across his expansive dining room, making several heads turn. I thought we raised our son to marry someone with ambition. I carefully set down my wine glass, feeling my husband David's hand squeeze my knee under the table. The annual Harrison family Thanksgiving dinner had become an exercise in restraint since I married into this family of prestigious bankers 3 years ago. Actually, the business is doing quite well, I said, keeping my voice steady. Our customer base has grown significantly this year. Oh, Margaret Harrison, my mother-in-law, arched her perfectly penciled eyebrow. How many scented candles and craft supplies did you sell this month, dear? The condescension in her voice made my skin crawl. But I maintained my pleasant smile. If they only knew that Claire's Corner, my supposedly tiny e-commerce site, was just the public face of Genesis Digital Solutions, the fastest-growing e-commerce platform in Asia and Europe. Leave Claire alone, mother, David interjected, though his voice wavered slightly. The Harrisons had that effect on people, especially their own son. 20 years in banking had taught them how to weaponize disapproval. We're just concerned, Robert said, cutting into his prime rib. Claire's obviously intelligent. She graduated from MIT, for heaven's sake. She could have a real career at Harrison Financial. Instead, she's playing shop owner on the internet. I thought about the acquisition papers sitting in my office safe, waiting to be revealed at tomorrow's board meeting. Harrison Financial, for all its prestige, was struggling to compete in the digital age. Their attempt to acquire Genesis Digital Solutions was meant to be their salvation, their dramatic leap into modern banking. If only they knew who really owned Genesis. Speaking of careers, Margaret chimed in, David's up for partner next month. Finally, some real success in the family. David shifted uncomfortably beside me. He knew the truth about my business. He was one of only 3 people who did. We kept it secret for years, watching and waiting for the perfect moment. That's wonderful news, I said sincerely. I was proud of David, even if his parents used his success as a weapon against me. Yes, well, Robert raised his glass. At least one of you understands the value of proper business. Banking is the backbone of civilization, not these fly-by-night internet schemes. I thought about my meeting last week with the CEO of Harrison Financial, James Morton. He'd practically begged Genesis to accept their acquisition offer, knowing their digital banking platform was years behind the competition. The irony of Robert Harrison dismissing internet business while his company desperately tried to buy mine was almost poetic. More wine, Claire? Margaret offered, her smile not reaching her eyes. You must need it, dealing with all those, what do you call them? Social media influences. Influencers, I corrected gently, and no thank you. I have an important meeting tomorrow morning. Oh, Robert's tone dripped with mock interest. Another craft fair? Actually, David spoke up, his voice stronger now. It's a meeting with your board of directors, Dad. The silence that fell over the table was sudden and complete. Robert's fork stopped halfway to his mouth. What are you talking about? He demanded. Claire's been invited to consult on Harrison Financial's digital transformation, David explained, giving me a subtle wink. We'd practiced this part. Given her experience in e-commerce. Absolutely not. Robert's face reddened. James Morton would never. I mean, the board wouldn't. The board would and did, I said calmly. In fact, Mr. Morton specifically requested my presence. Margaret laughed nervously. Surely there's been some mistake. I mean, no offense, dear, but what could a small online retailer possibly offer a major financial institution? I smiled, thinking of the real reason for tomorrow's meeting. You'd be surprised what you can learn from e-commerce, Margaret. For instance, did you know that over 70% of banking transactions now happen online? Or that traditional banks are losing millions of customers to digital-first platforms? That's ridiculous, Robert scoffed, but I caught the flash of fear in his eyes. He knew the numbers were true. Harrison Financial has been serving clients for over 100 years. We're not going to be replaced by some phone app. If he only knew that Genesis Digital Solutions had processed more transactions last month than Harrison Financial had all year, or that their desperate acquisition attempt was about to backfire spectacularly. Times change, Robert, I said softly. The question is whether we change with them or get left behind. The rest of dinner passed in tense silence, broken only by Margaret's attempts to steer the conversation towards safer topics like country club memberships and David's upcoming partner nomination. As we prepared to leave, Robert pulled David aside for what he thought was a private conversation. "Control your wife," I heard him hiss. "Bad enough she wastes her time with that internet nonsense, but now she's meddling in real business." David, to his credit, stood firm. "Claire knows what she's doing, Dad. Maybe if you actually looked at her business model." "Business model?" Robert sneered. "Selling trinkets online isn't a business model. It's a hobby. Fix this, David, or your partner nomination might need to be reconsidered." The drive home was quiet until we cleared the wealthy suburbs where the Harrisons lived. Then David burst out laughing. "Did you see Dad's face when I mentioned the board meeting? I thought he was going to burst a blood vessel." I smiled, thinking about tomorrow's revelation. Just wait until he learns who really owns Genesis Digital Solutions. "How much longer do we have to keep this secret?" David asked, turning onto the private road that led to our lake house. The one his parents thought we could barely afford. I checked my watch, 14 hours. The board meeting's at 9. David shook his head in amazement. 3 years of them looking down on you, mocking your little internet shop, and tomorrow they learn you're about to own their entire company. Not own, I corrected. Save. Harrison Financial is 3 months away from digital bankruptcy. They just don't know it yet. In my home office, I opened the safe and pulled out the acquisition papers. But these weren't the ones Harrison Financial had prepared. These were the real ones, drawn up by my team, outlining exactly how Genesis Digital Solutions would absorb Harrison Financial, not the other way around. My phone buzzed. A message from James Morton. "Everything's set for tomorrow. Board members all present. Ready when you are." I smiled, running my fingers over the embossed Genesis logo. "Thank you, Robert," I whispered, "for teaching me exactly how not to run a modern business." David appeared in the doorway with 2 glasses of champagne. "Ready for tomorrow?" I took a glass, thinking about the journey that had led here. You know what the funny thing is? If they bothered to really look at Claire's corner, they might have figured it out. The website architecture, the payment processing system, the customer interface, it's all Genesis technology. I've been showing them the future of digital commerce for 3 years, but they were too busy looking down their noses to see it. That's my parents, David sighed. So focused on tradition they can't see innovation when it's right in front of them. Outside, the lake reflected the moonlight, peaceful and undisturbed. Tomorrow, the calm waters of Harrison Financial would be rocked by a tsunami they never saw coming. And Robert Harrison would learn that sometimes the biggest successes come in packages he's too arrogant to recognize. The Harrison Financial boardroom looked exactly as you'd expect. All mahogany panels, leather chairs, and oil paintings of stern-faced bankers from decades past. At 8:45 a.m., I stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows, watching the city wake up while board members filed in. "Claire?" Robert Harrison stopped short in the doorway, his face darkening. "What are you doing here? This is a closed board meeting." "Good morning, Robert," I replied calmly. "I believe Mr. Morton requested my presence." "James." Robert turned to the CEO, who was setting up his presentation materials. "What is the meaning of this? She's not authorized." Actually, James Morton interrupted. "Mrs. Harrison is essential to this morning's discussion." He gave me a subtle nod. We'd rehearsed this moment carefully. "But she's just a..." Robert's protest was cut short as Margaret burst into the room, still wearing her tennis whites. "Robert, I just got your message about some emergency meeting. What's so important that..." She froze, seeing me. "What is she doing here?" "Please, everyone take your seats," James announced. "We have a lot to cover this morning." The tension in the room was palpable as the board members settled in. Robert and Margaret took their usual seats at James's right hand, both shooting me suspicious glances. "As you all know," James began, "Harrison Financial has been working to modernize our digital banking platform. 3 months ago, we initiated acquisition talks with Genesis Digital Solutions, the world's fastest-growing e-commerce and digital payment platform." Robert puffed up slightly. This was his pet project, the acquisition he thought would cement his legacy. "This morning," James continued, "I'm pleased to announce that the acquisition has been approved. However, there have been some Adjustments to the terms. Adjustments? Robert frowned. What adjustments? The terms were final. James glanced at me. Perhaps Mrs. Harrison would like to explain. All eyes turned to me as I stood, smoothing my designer suit. The one Margaret had once sneered was obviously from an outlet. 3 years ago, I founded a company called Genesis Digital Solutions. We began in e-commerce, providing platform solutions for online retailers. Within a year, we expanded into payment processing, digital banking, and financial technology. Robert's face went from confusion to disbelief. What are you talking about? Claire's Corner. I continued, my little internet shop, as you call it, was actually a test platform. A way to beta test our technology in real-world conditions. Every sale, every transaction, every customer interaction helped us refine what would become the most advanced digital commerce system in the world. I clicked a button, and the screens around the room lit up with Genesis's financial data, transaction volumes, user growth, market penetration. Numbers that made Harrison Financial's figures look like a corner store's accounts. Last year, I continued as Margaret gripped her husband's arm. Genesis processed over $300 billion in transactions. We have 200 million active users across 60 countries, and our digital banking platform handles more daily transactions than all traditional banks combined. Impossible, Robert whispered, but the color had drained from his face. You sell crafts online. No, Robert. I built a digital empire while you were too busy mocking my hobby to notice. And now, I nodded to James, who distributed new documents to the board. Genesis Digital Solutions isn't being acquired by Harrison Financial. We're acquiring you. The room erupted in chaos. Board members frantically flipped through the papers. Margaret looked like she might faint, and Robert just sat there, staring at me as if seeing me for the first time. The terms are generous, James explained over the commotion. Harrison Financial will become a subsidiary of Genesis, maintaining its brand identity while transitioning to our superior digital platform. All current employees will keep their positions, though there will be some changes in executive leadership. This is absurd. Robert finally found his voice. The board would never approve. The board already has, cut in Eleanor Walsh, the longest-serving board member. We've reviewed Genesis's technology, their financials, and their growth projections. This isn't just an acquisition, Robert. It's a rescue. A rescue? Margaret's voice was barely a whisper. Harrison Financial is 3 months away from digital obsolescence, I explained gently. Your technology is a decade behind. You're losing customers to digital banks every day. Without this merger, the company your family built would be defunct within a year. Robert slumped in his chair, the fight draining from him. How did we not know about Genesis? About you? I smiled, thinking of all the dinner parties where they dismissed my work. You knew, you just didn't bother to look. Every time you mocked my little website, you were actually mocking the same technology you were now desperately trying to buy. The next few hours were a blur of signatures, press releases, and restructuring plans. By afternoon, the news was public. Digital giant Genesis acquires Harrison Financial in landmark deal. David found me in my new office, formerly Robert's Corner suite, that evening. Mom's locked herself in the tennis club spa, he reported with a grin. Dad's trying to convince everyone he masterminded the whole thing as some kind of brilliant strategic move. I laughed, looking out over the city. How long do you think before they realize you knew all along? About the same time they figure out that my partner nomination was actually for Genesis's board, not Harrison Financial's. My phone buzzed continuously with congratulatory messages and press inquiries. The story was irresistible. Young female entrepreneur secretly builds digital empire while old money family dismisses her success. Margaret finally emerged from the spa the next day to find her country club account had been closed. Their payment processor, it seemed, had been acquired by Genesis. Don't worry, I told her when she called to complain. We'll set you up with a new digital banking app. I hear Claire's Corner has excellent customer service. Over the next year, Harrison Financial transformed under Genesis's leadership. The stuffy old bank became a digital powerhouse, its centuries of trust combining with cutting-edge technology to create something truly revolutionary. Robert and Margaret eventually accepted the new reality. though they never quite recovered from learning that their hobby shop daughter-in-law was now their boss. They still attend family dinners, though Margaret has stopped offering advice about proper careers. As for me, I kept my little online craft store running. It's still the perfect testing ground for new features, and besides, someone needs to keep selling those scented candles Margaret loves to mock. David received his board position at Genesis, earning it through his own merit rather than family connections. Sometimes he catches his father staring at the Genesis logo that now tops the Harrison Financial Building, still trying to understand how he missed seeing the future when it was right in front of him. My office still overlooks the city, but now it's filled with reminders of both businesses, traditional banking awards next to digital innovation prizes, old Harrison financial ledgers beside Genesis's cutting-edge terminals. Sometimes success isn't about announcing your victories. It's about quietly building something revolutionary while others underestimate you. And sometimes the best revenge isn't in proving people wrong. It's in saving them from their own outdated beliefs.